Ladies and gentlemen, there will come a time when you must confront those who do not respect you. They will test your patience, challenge your dignity, and seek to measure your worth. But understand this: no man or woman can strip you of your value unless you first surrender it yourself. The first way to handle those who do not respect you is to strengthen your own self-respect. When you possess unwavering belief in yourself, you will neither beg for validation nor crumble at the sound of their disapproval. You will walk into every room with a quiet assurance that demands attention without saying a word. People can only give you what you accept. Refuse to accept disrespect. The second way is to master your emotions. The moment you allow anger to govern you, you hand over the keys to your mind. Do not let them provoke you into a battlefield they have prepared. A man or woman who controls their reaction controls the room. There is extraordinary power in remaining calm when others expect you to shatter. The third way is to wield the weapon of silence. Words spoken in haste are often swords that cut both ways. When you respond to every insult, you become a puppet to their strings. But when you meet disrespect with silence, you force them to sit in the echo of their own words. Your silence becomes your strategy, and in that silence they hear their own weakness. The fourth way is to hold fast to your purpose. When your vision is clear, the voices of those who do not respect you grow faint in the distance. Their opinions are distractions that cannot deter a mind that is committed to a mission. Success is the ultimate retaliation. Every step forward is a step beyond their reach. The fifth way is to understand that disrespect often speaks of their limitations, not yours. Small minds belittle what they do not understand. Weak spirits tear down what they cannot build. Do not take ownership of their ignorance. Let their behavior reveal who they are while your response reveals who you are becoming. Ladies and gentlemen, your respect is not a gift they bestow upon you. It is a power you build within yourself. And when you hold that power firmly, no one can take it from you. Self-respect is the cornerstone of every relationship, every achievement, and every step you take toward personal greatness. It is not something given to you by others, nor is it something that can be borrowed or bought. It must be built, forged, and solidified from within. When you possess true self-respect, you no longer chase the approval of others, nor do you shrink in the presence of those who attempt to belittle you. You move through life with a quiet power, a steady confidence that speaks louder than any words you could offer. Those who lack respect for you cannot diminish your worth because you do not allow them to define it. Self-respect begins with how you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. It is born in the silent hours when you choose discipline over indulgence, integrity over compromise, and growth over comfort. The person who holds themselves to a higher standard, regardless of who is watching, becomes unshakable in the face of disrespect. They do not need the applause of the crowd because they have already given themselves approval. This inner foundation cannot be shaken by the careless words or actions of another. When you respect yourself, you set a standard that commands the same from others. It is important to understand that people treat you according to the price tag you place upon yourself. If you carry yourself as though you are unworthy, you invite those around you to believe it is so. But when you walk as though you are priceless, when you act with dignity, when you stand firm on your principles, you leave no room for others to question your value. Your posture, your words, your habits, they all send a message long before you speak. Self-respect is not arrogance. It is not loud, nor is it boastful. It is the quiet certainty that you are enough, that your worth is non-negotiable, and that no one's treatment of you can alter that truth. To build self-respect, one must first learn to keep promises made to oneself. It is in these small, daily commitments that self-respect takes root. When you tell yourself you will rise early and you do, when you tell yourself you will complete a task and you follow through, you begin to trust yourself. This trust is the soil in which self-respect grows. Each time you abandon your own word, each time you cut corners, each time you accept less from yourself, you chip away at the very foundation upon which self-respect is built. The world often mirrors how you treat yourself. When you walk with discipline, you signal to others that you are a person of value and that you expect to be treated as such. There are many who will offer you their opinion of who you are, who will try to define your worth based on their limited understanding. But their words only have the power you assign to them. Self-respect shields you from the weight of their judgments. When you know yourself deeply, when you have examined your character, your intentions, and your mission, you are not easily swayed by outside voices. You do not need to argue with those who misunderstand you, nor do you need to seek revenge on those who doubt you. Your focus remains fixed on becoming the best version of yourself. The opinions of others become background noise, unable to penetrate the fortress you have built within. Self-respect also demands that you walk away from those who continuously diminish you. To remain in the presence of those who refuse to see your worth is to participate in your own devaluation. There is great strength in choosing distance over conflict, in choosing peace over prolonged battles with those who cannot or will not see you clearly. You do not need to force respect from anyone. The moment you feel compelled to convince another of your value is the moment you have stepped out of alignment with your own self-respect. True power is silent. It walks away from tables where it is no longer honored. The journey to self-respect is not paved with comfort. It requires courage to stand alone when necessary. It requires resilience to uphold your standards when the easier path would be to lower them. It requires faith in your own worth, especially in moments when life offers little external validation. But those who persist, who choose themselves, who speak to themselves with kindness and discipline, will discover that self-respect becomes a magnet. It attracts those who are capable of seeing you clearly and repels those who would only take advantage. When you fully embrace self-respect, you no longer feel the need to over-explain yourself. You no longer need to convince others of your importance. You become content to simply be. You know that your worth is not determined by your circumstances, your past, or the approval of the crowd. You understand that you are the author of your value, the architect of your reputation, and the guardian of your peace. And when you hold yourself in this way, the world responds in kind. People may challenge you, they may test you, but they will eventually recognize the immovable force of someone who refuses to compromise their self-worth. Every step you take in life, every decision you make, either strengthens or weakens your self-respect. The foods you choose to eat, the people you choose to entertain, the work you choose to pursue, all shape the way you see yourself. It is not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, repeated choices where self-respect is forged. And in those choices, you send a message to yourself. You are worth the effort. You are worth the discipline. You are worth the protection of your own peace. This is how you build a life where disrespect can find no place to settle. There will always be those who cannot offer you the respect you deserve. Whether through envy, ignorance, or their own wounded pride, they will attempt to project their insecurities upon you. But you are not required to carry what they hand you. You are not required to accept every opinion or absorb every slight. When you have built true self-respect, you simply observe them from a distance, unmoved, undisturbed, and wholly committed to your own path. Their disrespect becomes powerless in the presence of your self-assured spirit. And it is in this space that you realize no one has the authority to define your worth but you. Emotional control is one of the rarest forms of power a person can possess. It is the unseen weapon of the disciplined mind, the quiet armor of those who have trained themselves not to be ruled by the shifting winds of emotion. When people do not respect you, their greatest desire is often to provoke you, to pull you out of your character, to see you react in ways that confirm their low opinion of you. They bait you with disrespect because they hope you will meet them at their level. But when you refuse to descend, when you keep your composure, when you master your emotional responses, you rise far above their reach. There are many who believe that strength is shown in quick retaliation, in loud responses, in visible anger. But those who understand power know that true strength is measured by restraint. The man who cannot control his anger is a servant to the man who can provoke it. The woman who allows her peace to be stolen by another's words places her power in the hands of those who care nothing for her well-being. To control your emotions is to hold the steering wheel of your life firmly in your grasp. It is to say, you cannot move me, you cannot shake me. I am not a puppet to your strings. When disrespect comes, and it surely will, the natural instinct is to react. The heart beats faster, the words rise to the tongue, and the urge to defend oneself grows strong. But pause, reflect, ask yourself, who benefits if I lose control? Who gains power if I abandon my calm? Often, those who disrespect you are searching for a reaction more than they are seeking truth. They want to see you fall into rage, to see you embarrassed, to see you disturbed, because your disturbance feeds their sense of superiority. But when you respond with calm precision, when you remain centered, you rob them of their victory. There is extraordinary power in the man or woman who can walk away without their spirit being rattled. This does not mean that you must be silent in the face of every insult. It does not mean you must tolerate continued disrespect. It means you respond with strategy, not with impulse. It means you weigh your words, you measure your actions, and you choose responses that serve your long-term purpose rather than your immediate feelings. To control your emotions is not to suppress them, but to discipline them, to direct them like a general leads an army, with order, with purpose, with precision. Many people fail to realize that their emotional outbursts often do more damage to themselves than to the ones who disrespect them. When you lose control, you may say things you regret. You may tarnish your own reputation. You may give the other person a weapon to use against you. But when you hold steady, when you answer calmly, when you choose silence or carefully selected words, you maintain the upper hand. You dictate the tone, you set the tempo, and you demonstrate that you are governed by principle, not by provocation. Emotional control requires training. It is not achieved in a day, nor is it born simply from good intentions. It is forged through repeated practice in difficult situations. You must place yourself in the arena, face the moments that test your patience, and commit to rising above them each time. The mind must be trained to observe before reacting. When someone disrespects you, you must see not only their words but their motives. Often, disrespect is a sign of their internal struggle, their insecurity, their need to feel superior. When you see their weakness, you can approach the situation with greater clarity and with less emotional entanglement. There is an art to choosing when to speak and when to remain silent. Not every battle is worth fighting, not every comment deserves a response. Sometimes the most powerful statement is no statement at all. It is the refusal to engage, the refusal to lower yourself, the refusal to let another person's lack of self-control pull you out of alignment. Silence in these moments is not weakness. It is mastery. It says, I am not available for this level of conversation. It forces the other person to sit in the echo of their own words without your energy to fuel their fire. When you maintain emotional control, you preserve your focus. You continue to work toward your goals without being derailed by petty provocations. Disrespect is often a distraction designed to pull you off course, to make you abandon your greater mission for the sake of temporary satisfaction. But when you are driven by purpose, you cannot afford to waste your energy on every insult, every rumor, every act of ignorance, your time, your mind, your peace. They are far too valuable to be sacrificed on the altar of emotional impulsiveness. The man or woman who can walk through storms with calm, who can sit among critics without bitterness, who can navigate conflict without surrendering their poise, becomes unstoppable. Emotional control is the quality that leaders possess, that builders develop, that visionaries guard. It is what allows you to see clearly while others are blinded by rage. It is what enables you to act with precision while others are swinging wildly in the dark. It is what permits you to maintain respect for yourself even when others refuse to offer it. You do not need to match their energy. You do not need to fight every battle. You do not need to convince them to change their view. You need only to govern yourself, to wake each day with the decision that no one will dictate your emotional state, that no one will control your peace but you. When you master this, you begin to experience a freedom that cannot be purchased, a freedom that cannot be granted by another person's approval. Disrespect loses its grip when it cannot penetrate your emotional defenses. And you build those defenses not through walls of bitterness, but through inner discipline, through the repeated choice to value your peace over your pride. Pride will often lead you into unnecessary battles, but peace will lead you forward, unshaken, undeterred, and wholly committed to your own journey. When you choose emotional control, you choose to be the architect of your own power. You choose to live by design, not by reaction. And that choice will elevate you far above those who sought only to disturb your peace. There is immense, almost untouchable power in silence. It is a weapon few understand, yet it is one of the most effective tools in handling those who do not respect you. Many believe that every act of disrespect demands a sharp reply, a loud defense, a quick retaliation. But those who understand the science of human behavior, those who have studied power, know that silence often speaks louder than 1,000 carefully crafted words. It is in silence that you disarm your opponent. It is in silence that you reveal their desperation. It is in silence that you prove you are not at their mercy. When someone disrespects you, they are often fishing for a reaction. They thrive on your response, whether it be anger, frustration, or even hurt. They want to see you lose your footing. They want to see you come undone because it feeds their ego to know they have disturbed you. But when you give them silence, you deny them that satisfaction. You show them that their words hold no power in your world. Your silence tells them everything they need to know, that they do not control your mind, that they do not determine your worth, that you are above the game they are trying to play. There is an elegance to silence. It is not the absence of strength. It is the presence of supreme self-control. It takes courage to remain silent when your pride screams to speak. It takes discipline to withhold a response when your emotions beg to be released. But silence is not weakness. Silence is the fortress where you protect your energy. Silence is the space where you decide what deserves your attention and what does not. You must understand that responding to every act of disrespect is the work of those who have not yet mastered themselves. Those who are truly powerful do not attend every battle they are invited to. They choose carefully. They assess whether the conflict is worthy of their time and their focus. In many cases, silence is the most strategic response because it shifts the weight of the moment back onto the one who delivered the insult. It forces them to confront their own words without the comfort of your reaction to shield them. Silence forces reflection. When you answer with silence, you create a vacuum that often unsettles those who are used to controlling others through provocation. They expect noise. They expect resistance. When they are met with calm, deliberate quiet, they are left to wrestle with themselves. They may begin to question whether their words had any impact at all. They may begin to doubt the strength of their attack. In your silence, you hand them the mirror, and most people are not prepared to face their own reflection. It is essential to know that silence is not retreat. Silence is positioning. It is the deliberate choice to hold your ground without feeding the fire. It is the recognition that not all fights elevate you. Some fights reduce you. And when you engage in these petty exchanges, you allow yourself to be pulled into arenas where nothing can be won, where nothing is gained. You must preserve your energy for the battles that matter, for the missions that move your life forward. Many people waste their finest energy arguing with those whose only purpose is to diminish them. They spend hours, days, even years trying to prove their worth to people who have already decided not to see it. But silence breaks this cycle. Silence says, I no longer invest my energy in convincing you. Silence says, I am not here to entertain your disrespect. Silence says, you are speaking to yourself now because I have moved beyond the need to answer you. There are times when silence is your greatest teacher. In silence, you learn to observe. You begin to see the patterns of those who seek to disrupt your peace. You see their predictability, their insecurity, their hunger for attention, and you realize that their disrespect is rarely about you. It is about them. Their internal conflicts spill outward because they have not yet learned to manage themselves. Your silence exposes this. It holds a bright light to their weakness while preserving your dignity. Silence allows you to retain your composure and protect your long-term vision. When you are building something, when you are moving toward success, when you are committed to a life of discipline and achievement, you cannot afford to lose focus over the careless words of others. Words pass, insults fade, but the damage you do to yourself when you react impulsively can linger. Every time you give your energy to the unworthy, you steal that same energy from your own goals. The person who disrespects you often relies on your reaction to validate their importance in your life. Your silence denies them that place. It reminds them that they are a bystander, not a centerpiece. It places them outside the boundaries of your emotional investment. And this is where your greatest power lies, when you are no longer emotionally tied to how they view you, how they speak to you, or whether they acknowledge your value. Silence liberates you from their grip. It is through silence that you begin to cultivate an inner calm, a space where peace is not dependent on the behavior of others. You become less reactive, less concerned with minor offenses, less controlled by the shifting moods of those around you. You begin to carry yourself with a quiet assurance that no longer needs to prove anything to anyone. This is not indifference. It is wisdom. It is the recognition that your energy is sacred and should not be scattered in every direction by every voice that chooses to speak. Silence also opens the door for strategic patience. There are moments when speaking would satisfy your pride but harm your purpose. In these moments, silence becomes your ally. It allows you to wait, to let situations unfold, to gather strength while others deplete theirs in fruitless argument. The one who knows when to speak and when to remain silent holds the true advantage. They act with precision, not with haste. They do not reveal their entire hand. They allow their results to speak in time. When you choose silence in the face of disrespect, you are not surrendering. You are commanding. You are setting terms. You are establishing that not everyone has the privilege of your response. You are teaching people how to treat you without needing to lecture them. You are building an unshakable foundation where your peace is yours to guard, yours to hold, and yours to protect from the careless hands of those who never deserved access to it in the first place. There is a unique power in standing firm and setting boundaries when others do not respect you. It is one thing to control your emotions, to master your silence, but it is another to develop the backbone to say, "This is as far as you go." Many people suffer not because others disrespect them, but because they allow it to continue. They leave the door wide open, permitting repeated offenses, hoping that silence alone will teach the lesson. But silence must be balanced with clear, immovable boundaries, or you will become a quiet victim of your own tolerance. When you accept repeated disrespect without consequence, you train people to continue their behavior. Human beings learn through patterns. If they disrespect you and nothing changes, they receive a message that you will tolerate it. You must teach people how to treat you, not through words alone, but through firm, consistent action. When you draw a line, you must be willing to enforce it. You cannot draw boundaries in sand, expecting them to hold. Boundaries must be carved in stone, and when they are crossed, you must respond with clarity and resolve. It is not enough to simply wish for respect. You must demand it by the way you carry yourself, and by the way you guard your personal space. People do not always give what is deserved. They often give what is required, and if you require nothing, you will receive nothing. Your boundaries tell the world what you will and will not accept. They are the fences that protect your peace, the walls that preserve your self-worth. Without them, you will be trampled by those who see kindness as weakness and patience as permission. It takes courage to enforce boundaries. It takes the willingness to lose people who refuse to respect you. But understand this. The people you lose by setting boundaries are the very people you needed to lose. They were not there to support you. They were there to drain you. They were there to test how much of yourself you were willing to sacrifice in order to keep their company. When you set boundaries, you filter your life. You separate those who value you from those who seek to use you, and this is necessary if you are to build a life of strength, purpose, and dignity. Boundaries are not about revenge. They are about protection. They are about guarding your time, your energy, your peace of mind, and your emotional well-being. When someone disrespects you, you must make it clear that access to you is not unconditional. It is a privilege, not a right, and those who violate that privilege must understand that their place in your life is no longer guaranteed. You do not need to be cruel. You do not need to be loud. You simply need to be firm. You need to mean what you say and stand by the standards you set. Many people hesitate to enforce boundaries because they fear being alone. They fear the silence that may follow. They fear losing relationships that have been part of their lives for years, even if those relationships have long been sources of pain. But the temporary discomfort of solitude is far less damaging than the ongoing erosion of your self-respect. You must decide which pain you are willing to endure, the pain of losing people who do not honor you, or the pain of continuously shrinking yourself to accommodate their disrespect. The first pain builds you. The second pain destroys you. A boundary is not a wall to keep everyone out. It is a gate that determines who is allowed in. When you set boundaries, you become a gatekeeper of your own life. You no longer grant open access to those who bring harm, to those who drain your spirit, to those who repeatedly test your worth. Boundaries create structure. They establish the terms of engagement. They send the message that while you are kind, you are not naive, that while you are forgiving, you are not to be taken for granted. There is great freedom in living with boundaries. You no longer live in fear of other people's opinions because you are no longer controlled by their approval. You no longer feel the need to explain your every move because your standards speak for you. You no longer spend energy trying to earn respect from those who refuse to give it because you have learned to walk away. When you live with boundaries, you become your own protector. You become the guardian of your own life, and no one else holds that responsibility. Enforcing boundaries is not a one-time act. It is a lifestyle. You must repeatedly choose to honor yourself, even when it is difficult, even when it is uncomfortable, even when others do not understand. You must choose to walk away from what insults your soul. You must choose to distance yourself from those who treat you as if you are disposable. You must choose to create space for people who bring value, who bring respect, who bring genuine care into your life. Your boundaries will either attract those who are meant to be in your life or repel those who never belonged. When you are clear about your boundaries, you no longer need to beg for respect. You no longer need to explain why you deserve to be treated well. Your boundaries do the work for you. They stand as silent guards, protecting you from what no longer serves you. They remind people that kindness is not weakness, that love is not submission, and that your time is not available to those who squander it. Boundaries bring order, they bring clarity, they bring peace. Without them, you invite chaos. Without them, you invite confusion. Without them, you allow people to write the terms of your life for you. You must be the author of those terms. You must decide what is acceptable and what is not. And once you decide, you must stand firm, not with hostility, but with quiet certainty. When someone disrespects you and crosses your boundaries, you do not need to meet their energy. You need only to remove their access. You need only to protect your space. You need only to choose yourself over the need to keep their presence in your life. The strength to enforce your boundaries comes from the knowledge that your peace is more valuable than their approval, that your growth is more important than their comfort, that your life is too precious to be shared with those who refuse to honor it. Standing firm in your boundaries is not about being cold. It is about being clear. It is about living a life that reflects the value you see in yourself. It is about teaching the world that you will not lower your standards for anyone, and it is about building a life where respect is not demanded. It is required. There is no greater declaration of self-worth than walking away from people who continue to disrespect you. It is the ultimate decision that separates those who merely talk about their value from those who live by it. Many will tell you to demand respect, but few will tell you the deeper truth. Sometimes you must remove yourself completely to prove your worth, not to them, but to yourself. Staying in places where you are not respected is a quiet agreement to be treated poorly. It is a silent contract that tells others you are willing to stay even when they dishonor you. Walking away breaks that contract. It is the boldest step you can take because it places the power back into your hands. People who repeatedly disrespect you are not making mistakes. They are making choices, and every time you stay, you tell them their choices are acceptable. They may offer excuses, they may offer temporary kindness, they may offer hollow promises of change, but behavior reveals intent more than words ever will. You must develop the wisdom to recognize when patterns speak louder than apologies. And you must develop the strength to say, "This no longer serves me," and walk away. Walking away is not an act of bitterness. It is an act of self-preservation. It is not about punishing the other person. It is about protecting yourself. It is the understanding that your peace is too valuable to be consistently placed in the hands of someone who cannot or will not handle it with care. It is the recognition that you do not have to remain in every environment where you are present. You have the right to leave. You have the right to choose spaces where you are valued, not merely tolerated. The fear that keeps people trapped in disrespectful relationships, jobs, or circles is often the fear of what will be lost. But few stop to calculate what is being lost by staying. When you stay where you are not respected, you lose your joy, you lose your confidence, you lose your energy, you lose your sense of self. You trade away your inner peace for the comfort of familiarity. You begin to shrink to fit spaces that were never built to honor you. Walking away is not just about leaving someone else. It is about returning to yourself. It is about reclaiming the parts of you that you surrendered to the approval of others. It takes great courage to walk away, especially when you have invested time, effort, or emotion. But understand this, sunk costs do not justify staying in places that continue to diminish you. Just because you have been somewhere for years does not mean you are obligated to remain there at the cost of your own dignity. Time invested in the wrong places does not require more time. It requires a decision. The longer you stay where you are disrespected, the more difficult it becomes to remember your own value. The more you endure, the more you begin to believe that endurance is all you are worthy of. Walking away is a refusal to let that lie take root in your life. When you walk away, you send a message, not to them, but to yourself, that you are no longer negotiating your worth. You no longer need to explain why you deserve to be treated well. You no longer need to campaign for basic decency. You have moved beyond the need for validation from people who cannot see you. You understand that respect is not something you should chase. It is something you naturally attract when you carry yourself with self-assurance and when you refuse to settle for less. It is important to know that walking away does not always mean a dramatic exit. Sometimes it is a quiet disengagement. Sometimes it is the slow withdrawal of your time, your energy, your attention. Sometimes you do not need to announce your departure. You simply stop showing up where you are mistreated. You simply stop responding to those who dishonor you. You simply choose peace over noise. And in that choice, you liberate yourself from cycles that no longer serve you. There will always be those who question your decision to walk away. They will call you selfish. They will call you impatient. They will tell you that you are too sensitive or that you should give more chances. But you must remember that you are not living for their comfort. You are not obligated to accept mistreatment to maintain appearances. You are not required to stay in places that erode your spirit just because others have learned to survive there. You are allowed to build a life that feels like respect, that feels like dignity, that feels like home. When you walk away from disrespect, you make room for better. You open the door to relationships, environments, and opportunities that are aligned with your true worth. But better cannot enter your life while you are clinging to what is harmful. Better cannot find you if you are still hiding in places where you are not seen. Walking away is a necessary clearing. It is the act of sweeping out what no longer belongs so that what is meant for you can arrive. Do not fear the empty space that walking away might create. It is in that space that you grow. It is in that space that you heal. It is in that space that you remember who you are outside of the noise, outside of the disrespect, outside of the struggle to be accepted. That space is not your enemy, it is your opportunity. It is the ground where you can plant new seeds, build new habits, and form new standards. It is the place where you choose yourself without apology. People who are committed to disrespecting you will rarely change because you continue to tolerate them. They are more likely to change when they are confronted with the reality that you are no longer available to them. Sometimes your absence is the loudest message you can send. Sometimes it is the distance that forces people to confront their behavior, but whether they change or not is no longer your concern. Your priority is to preserve your peace, to protect your energy, and to live in alignment with your highest self. Walking away is not a loss, it is a redirection. It is not an ending, it is a necessary transition. It is not giving up, it is choosing something better. You cannot grow in soil that chokes your roots. You cannot thrive in places that diminish your spirit. You cannot rise while holding tightly to what weighs you down. Walking away is an act of strength, of faith, of self-respect, and of vision. It is the doorway to the life you were meant to build, where you are honored, where you are valued, and where you are finally free.